Decades to grow, but Storm Goretti felled it instantly. This tree in Felmouth couldn't stand up against 100-mile-an-hour winds that hit the south coast last night, smashing through Emily's home in the middle of her children's bedtime.
It literally just uprooted the tree from its roots.
She says she instinctively knew to keep her kids downstairs.
It's gone through, obviously, the children's bedrooms at the front of the house. Glass started smashing, the front door just blew wide open, and then this giant tree literally just came through, and me and the kids were seconds away really from being impaled by the tree. So yeah.
How do you feel coming back here today and seeing your home like this?
You know, that realisation that my kids were seconds from potential death, and if they had been asleep at the time that the tree fell, they would have both been in their bedrooms, and this conversation would be very different. They would both be dead.
As the storm moved across the channel, the amber alert yesterday across the southwest was escalated to a rare red danger to life wind warning. All trains in Cornwall were suspended and all schools closed as the county bore the brunt of the gale force winds that ripped off roofs and tore down tiles in St Ives. Today, this coastal community started trying to repair the damage.
Oh, God, it is such a mess.
But for some, the process will take a lot longer.
I got hold of my insurance this morning. Obviously, they're inundated. I can't actually get out my back door, but I can go through the garage and get into the back garden. But it's not really that safe.
More than 40,000 properties across the southwest suffered power cuts overnight. At this care home, staff had to work in candlelight to treat residents.
And you're still not fully up and running here? Electricity still?
No, we're vulnerable adults here. They were very, very scared, and the house was in pitch black, and we had to evacuate residents from their bedrooms on the top landing.
And now there is calm across the southwest, but recovery in this resilient region may take a little while yet.
Well, there is still a bit of a wind here tonight, and it is quite cold. Nothing, though, compared to what it was like here yesterday when those winds just suddenly picked up with so much force. I was able to struggle to stand up in them. Conditions, though, have been a lot milder today. It's meant we've seen people starting the clean-up. We've seen neighbours helping each other. We've also seen some housing officers speaking to residents about the damage caused. Tonight, though, still around 30,000 homes across Cornwall without power and still some travel disruption. The storm caused signalling issues, which means that services from Penzance up to Plymouth are cancelled. And actually, across Devon, there is a yellow weather warning in place for ice until tomorrow at about midday, because snow that has thawed is now refreezing as temperatures drop.
OK, Sangeeta, thank you. Well, in the Midlands, it was the exceptionally heavy snow which caused disruption for many. Power cuts affected thousands of homes. Many roads were left impassable overnight. Train services were cancelled and many schools were closed too. Neil Connery heard from some of those affected.
They say they haven't seen snow like this in the Midlands for a decade. Parts of Telford were covered by 20 centimetres of the white stuff. Treacherous driving conditions were faced by many, with fallen trees blocking roads. Nearby, Charlotte Wade was trying to clear her mum's abandoned car.
How bad were the conditions here last night?
Really bad. I mean, the car was swerving side to side. We couldn't go anywhere. No, we're so lucky that that one's fallen where it has and not on the car.
Close shave?
Yeah.
Outside this Telford school, they were clearing the crossing, but like many others across the region, the gates were closed today, leaving parents to juggle childcare. Rebecca and Terry's son's primary school and nursery couldn't open either. Rebecca's work let her go home early last night.
So they let me come home a bit early, and it was a bit dicey coming home. So.
And when did you hear about the schools being closed?
It was this morning, but they did put warnings on to say that, you know, they can't predict everything.
More than 15,000 homes across the Midlands lost power during a freezing night. Electricity companies say they're working round the clock to reconnect supplies.
We're sorry, but the 918...
At Telford Station, the train at Platform 1 was going nowhere as rail services were badly affected by the heavy snow.
So we have many of our lines here in the West Midlands that were badly disrupted by yesterday's snowstorms. We are operating some trains on some routes, albeit a reduced timetable, and we're working very hard to get the majority of our routes here in the West Midlands open.
For many in the Midlands, it's been a frozen Friday to forget. Storm Goretti may have moved on, but it's left its mark along the way. Well, we've travelled across much of this region over the past 24 hours, and what has struck me has been the number of drivers who've kept off the roads, and I think that has had a huge impact in terms of what the emergency services have been able to do, but in particular what the councils have been able to do in terms of the gritting operation and the snow ploughing going on overnight. That has had a huge impact in keeping the major routes open, the motorways open. This could have been a lot worse last night, but I think common sense has played its part.
Indeed. Neil, thanks very much. Let's get the latest now from elsewhere. Alexandra Spicely is in St Peter in Jersey and Rhys Williams is in Bridgend in South Wales for us. I'm going to start with you, Alexandra. And the Channel Islands were hit badly last night, wasn't it?
That's right, and as you can see, Storm Goretti caused some serious damage. The roof of this barn here, which weighs nearly half a tonne, peeled off like paper last night as winds peaked, and residents just next door were worried it could then take off and hit their homes. In Guernsey, a number of people were evacuated from an apartment block as 95-mile-per-hour winds tore through their roof. Across our islands today, we've seen trees uprooted, walls toppled and cars destroyed. And tonight, a number of people here also are going without power. But that being said, remarkably, despite the power of the storm, only one person in the Channel Islands was injured. Now, our schools in Guernsey and Alderney remained closed today. However, our airports across all of the islands did reopen. And given that it was just a few years ago that we experienced Storm Ciarán and the tornado that came with it, it seems that this is perhaps becoming less of a freak occurrence and maybe something we're going to have to learn to live with.
Well, there were more than 30 centimetres of snow predicted to fall in parts of mid-Wales, so in some ways Storm Goretti wasn't quite as bad as initially feared here. That doesn't mean there wasn't plenty of disruption, though, particularly down in the southwest in Pembrokeshire, where lots of homes have been left without power today and many roads have been totally impassable. Very difficult driving conditions too, and higher ground, particularly around the heads of the valleys, places like Merthyr Tydfil and Ebbw Vale. There were blizzard-like conditions last night and very tricky conditions this morning too. Thankfully, by this evening, it does seem that most main roads are now clear, although several mountain roads and rural roads are understandably still impassable. Lots of disruption too on the railway network here at Bridgend, going east and going west. There's lots of delays, a lot of cancellations. No trains between Cardiff and Cheltenham or along the North Wales coast either. Lots of school closures too. Spare a thought for a small number, around 100 pupils who were due to be taking their Welsh Literature GCSE today. Unfortunately, it looks like they'll have to revise again in the summer.
OK, thanks very much, Rhys, and also thank you to you, Alexandra. Well, fresh warnings for snow and ice have been issued for parts of Scotland and northern England over the weekend. It comes as hundreds of schools across Aberdeenshire and the Highlands remain closed for a fifth day, with temperatures in the region reaching as low as -13 overnight. Rail services continue to be disrupted, with the Inverness to Wick line closed as Network Rail clears snow and trees from the line. In Folkestone in Kent, cedar fences have been ripped up out of the beach after huge waves whipped up by strong winds hit the coastline overnight. And more homes on the Norfolk coast are being demolished before they crumble into the sea. More than a dozen homes in Hemsby are at risk of collapse, with the storm exacerbating already accelerating erosion. Well, Alex is here. He's joined us in the studio. So, Alex, what more is to come?
Well, the weekend is looking pretty unsettled, although it won't be nowhere near as powerful as what we saw with Storm Goretti, but it did really pack a punch. In fact, there is evidence that there was a sting jet. The same thing happened during the Great Storm of 1987. Let's run this satellite sequence and I'll try and point it out for you. But some evidence here to suggest that it was a narrow band of winds that dived down through the atmosphere, from atmospheric winds, that is, and that would have accelerated the storm, and that's where we got those very powerful winds. So let's take a look at some of the top wind speeds from Goretti. And as you can see, St Mary's, that's on the Isles of Scilly, have recorded an official gust of 99 miles per hour. But there are actually some unofficial gusts out there that were recorded. In fact, Pasto, they recorded 123 miles per hour, and even in St Ives, 111. Also, our snow depths were pretty high. Let's take a quick look at those. Lake Vyrnwy, Wales, up to 15 centimetres. But again, there are some reports that it was up to 25 in places. Let's take a quick look at the warnings that are currently in place. And as you can see, up and down the country, more warnings for snow and ice.
From above, it looks picturesque, but what it hides is the problems on the ground. Children home from school, workers left at home, and challenges on the roads.
So the snow has stopped, but there are problems, including abandoned vehicles. Up here on the heads of the Valleys Road, you will find quite a few cars that have been left on the sides of the road, but that is causing problems. So the police have turned up here and are organising for this car to be towed away, and that's happened a few times today.
But despite it all, a feeling here that things could have been worse.
We got off later than we probably expected. Earlier this week, the forecasts shown that we could probably receive in the sort of accumulations of about a foot of snow. As you can see, it's far less than that, and so the forecast did improve gradually as the week got on. But we did still see some disruption to traffic flows last night on the highway.
I suppose a lot of people, particularly in South Wales, will looked out their windows this morning and gone, "Oh, where's the snow?" Yeah. But up here, it's a different world, isn't it?
It is a different world, but we faced a particularly challenging scenario last night because it was raining. Most of the day, heavy rain. Right the way through, we had teams prepared so that as soon as it changed from rain to snow, that they were deployed immediately.
Despite the gritters, those people living on side roads had to get their own shovels out.
How bad was it last night?
It wasn't too bad, to be honest. After 9 o'clock, I'd say from 4:30 till around 7, it was really bad. But anything after that was fine, really.
And this is what you got to do then. You got to sort of clean yourself up.
I know, brilliant.
Hundreds of homes across Wales have been left without power, and over 100 schools were closed, giving some children a chance to indulge their creative side.
Do you missing school today?
Yeah.
So what are we going to call this, art class?
Yeah, sure. I do art at GCSE, so...
Oh, perfect. So what are you going to give him a name?
Michael.
Michael?
Yeah.
Michael
the cowboy.
Michael the cowboy. I'd say Michael Fish, but you wouldn't know who he was.
As Storm Goretti passes, there is relief that things weren't worse. The hope is the disruption will clear by the start of next week.
And Rob, for those travelling tomorrow, what's the advice?
Well, I'm not exactly Michael Fish, Johns, but let me give you a bit of a travel update, particularly on the trains, because we've got the boards here, and I can say, by and large, everything is on time. There's a slight minor delay to the train to Hereford and a delay also to Ebbw Vale, where we were filming today. But I think Transport for Wales, again, say it has been a difficult day, difficult 24 hours, I suppose, for them, because they've had to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And there have been some problems, clearly, with the snowfall, but also they've seen fallen trees and power outages. But by and large, most things are back to normal. However, they do say that there will be some disruption, maybe up till tomorrow, and they particularly point to the Heart of Wales line and between Shrewsbury and Birmingham. They say that is expected to be disrupted up until tomorrow. But as always, you should check before you travel, because there can be some very last-minute changes, delays or cancellations. So keep an eye if you need to go by rail.
I don't want to be a prophet of doom, but a separate warning for ice has now come into force too. How significant is that?
Yes, Happy New Year, John. Yes, it is bitterly freezing cold, and I think that is the thing. We can feel the temperatures. This is an old building now, and you can really feel the cold in here, and there is a warning for ice. Helpfully, we have a map to show you where those yellow weather warnings are. Forecasters say it is because the snow is thawing and these freezing cold temperatures overnight. There is now a widespread risk of ice, so clearly be careful when you go out and about on the roads, on the pavements, and that is expected to start tonight and go into tomorrow. So if you are going out and about, whether it's by road, whether it's by rail, or whether you're just going to go out on the pavements, take care. It is January, it is cold, and just be wary of those conditions.
OK, Rob Osborne in Cardiff, thanks very much indeed. That's the picture in the south, but parts of Mid and North Wales woke up to a dusting of the white stuff. Our reporter Ian Lang has spent the day in Wrexham and joins us from the city this evening. Ian, a day off for school children there, with several schools telling pupils to stay away.
Yeah, there were several dozen schools in the Wrexham area which were shut today. That is because it was the hardest hit by the snow, but on the coast there was no snow at all, or just rain. But the further south you went and the further east you went, well, that was a very different story. Shovelling up the snow from the streets of Cornwall. Last night it wasn't heavy enough to bring things to a standstill, and locals were just getting on with daily life this morning, taking a pragmatic approach to the recent weather.
Bishire have sent staff out, and as you can see, they've cleared the pavements. The lads going up the road there now have done a wonderful job. Normally they don't get cleared, and there's been slips and falls and stuff. So fair play to them, they deserve credit for that.
Just stuck in, having to dig ourselves out the snow, you know, obviously assisting my mum everywhere because she's disabled and she's just terrified of ending up in a heat, really, to be honest.
The snow's been I had about 6 inches, and the problem is that the lanes get quite covered, and when it melts, it sort of freezes over at night, and that's the worst time, when it gets very slippy. But I'm managing well.
You might think snow was bad for business, but not for this local butcher. He said the bad weather had seen people shopping closer to home, so takings were well up.
It's boosted trade by triple the amount of people coming in, I'd say, this week. I'd say they're stocking up because they don't know how long they're going to get out, isn't it? It's hard to say because obviously you read social media and the weather, etc., and we're not sure how long we're going to be stuck in for. So yeah, it's good for everyone, really.
In North Wales, dozens of schools were closed in the Wrexham area, with a handful elsewhere. But because main routes in the region were so well gritted, people were able to get to work and there was little disruption overall. But not everyone was so lucky, particularly down lanes away from the coast and on higher ground, like the village of Bulthgwyn. Now it's clear that the local authorities have done a really sterling job in keeping the main routes open, helping to keep things going. But of course, they can't please everyone. What's this weather meant for you?
Well, we've been stuck in for quite a number of days since the New Year, and this will be the third time that I've cleared this road an hour drive. So we have managed to get out, but eventually, after a lot of work.
And the way this winter is progressing, it seems we may well be in for more cold weather like this and all it brings. And just to make a point, I mean, we travelled quite a distance along the North Wales coast. I mean, there was no disruption, the roads were clear. So this is really a shout out really for the gritter drivers and indeed the farmers who help them keep these roads open in terrible conditions. Without them, of course, you know, things would grind to a halt. And of course, they'll be out again tonight.
OK, Ian Lang in Wrexham, thanks very much indeed. Let's head to West Wales now, and our reporter Lewis Rhys-Jones, who's in Carmarthen for us this evening. Lewis, some communities in that county and neighbouring Pembrokeshire saw thunder snow and heavy downpours. What's been the aftermath there during the day?
Well, it's felt like the calm after the storm this afternoon in Carmarthen, John. After all, we down west too were preparing for what Goretti might throw our way, but it's more or less turned to slush. Of course, rain and windy conditions rather than the snow itself. But that wasn't the case everywhere, mind, because Pembrokeshire, their council did warn the public that the gritters and snowplows would be delayed due to extreme weather conditions, and they opted to understandably look after the safety of their staff. And then, as you mentioned, the thunder snow, which is a relatively rare phenomenon, well, they, at the end of the day, people living in the Preseli Mountains, saw thunder, lightning and snow all at once, but it quickly cleared up. However, one thing they did also have was power cuts as a result of those arduous conditions. Meanwhile, up in Ceredigion, Dyfed Powys Police were warning the public to not venture out at all and to only make journeys if extremely necessary. I know Rob has mentioned a lot about travel disruption in many parts of the country. Well, trains west of Carmarthen were cancelled until a few hours ago, but they are back running beyond Whitland now. So while we were expecting a lot of snow, it's turned into a rather calm and beautiful evening, John.
Well, as you can see, we're up on some of that high ground now on the border into County Durham at the top of the North Pennines. And Storm Goretti has been making its presence felt here. Take a look at some of the pictures that we've been shooting since just after first light this morning. And fair to say that the snow was coming down in steady pulses relatively heavily, causing problems for motorists. Not that there were many on the roads. Hard going for livestock and of course hard going for the people who earn their livelihoods up in this countryside. But on lower ground, down in places like Staindrop, instead of showing up as heavy snow, Storm Goretti showed up instead as heavy rain. Much easier going for motorists. We were also warned though up until about lunchtime today to expect ice, and we've seen that too in some pretty unusual circumstances. Much further north of here, up in Northumberland, the River Wansbeck frozen up completely. But if you're watching this evening and feeling pretty warm and snug in your home, best not to feel too warm and smug, because we are told there's bad weather on the way this weekend. More of that in a moment with Ross. But there's also a warning to motorists about making sure if you're out and about this weekend that you carry some of those basics. Things like de-icer, things like scrapers, and also food, a blanket, hot drinks. And not only that, too many of us probably think, oh, I'm okay if I've got my mobile phone with me. Well, not if it hasn't got any charge. In short, the message one of don't put too much faith in these little tin boxes in case they either find that they can't move or won't move in snowy weather.
A near miss on a snow-covered Abbey Lane in Sheffield as this silver car skids towards an oncoming taxi. Luckily, a crash was narrowly avoided. With heavy snow from around 8 p.m. last night in Sheffield and an amber warning for South Yorkshire, hazardous conditions continued into today. This was the scene on 20 Well Lane during the morning commute. The road blocked by stranded vehicles, one having mounted the curb and hit a lamppost. Elsewhere, this was Bank End Road at Goldcar near Huddersfield, with several cars damaged in the icy conditions and at least 2 overturned. It may have looked picturesque across the Woodhead Pass, but it remained closed throughout the rush hour, closing off a vital link from Sheffield to Manchester. Trains were cancelled between Manchester and Sheffield, and many schools too were closed.
In a word, it's cold. I think you can probably still see behind me there is a thin layer of snow on the tops of cars and on some of the pavements. But as you say, by and large, it is now turning to slush. And this is a far cry from the conditions we saw yesterday. According to the Met Office official data, around 7 centimetres of snow fell across Shropshire. And in fact, in Oswestry, we can show you a picture now, the snowfall there was so heavy that it actually brought down some of the Christmas lights display. We're told that the council will now be taking the rest of the display down over the coming days. And the impact of the snowfall has been enormous. More than 250 schools closed across Shropshire, delays and cancellations on the railways, and thousands of homes left without power. Like many others across Shropshire, Sue Gwilt and her husband Dave couldn't make it into work this morning. As well as being snowed in, they were among thousands of people left without power.
We couldn't shower, we couldn't get ready for work, we couldn't do anything really. We work for ourselves, and my husband delivers stone and topsoil and things like that, which obviously at the moment we can't do.
Living in Dudley on the outskirts of Telford, she says they're used to getting the worst of any bad weather which hits this part of the world.
Just take it as it is because we're used to it. We've lived here for 30 odd years and we know that it gets really bad up here. It's the highest part of Telford apart from the Wrekin, so we know that we're going to get bad snow when it does snow.
And how does this snow compare to previous years when it's come down?
We haven't had it this deep for probably about, I would say, about 5 or 6 years. This is the worst we've had for a while.
Across the county, around 250 schools were closed. There were no trains into or out of Telford Central Railway Station and long delays through Shrewsbury too. And with many roads left impassable last night, some commuters had to return to the scene this morning to dig their cars free from the snowdrifts.
My mum was on her way back from a 13-hour shift and we got stuck really bad. I mean, the car was swerving side to side, we couldn't go anywhere.
Also braving the cold and the treacherous roads and pavements was Trina Massey, taking bags full of hay and food to ensure Suki the horse is kept well fed through the big freeze.
Black ice, and this one doesn't get gritted, so all the cars coming down here are skidding. It's put everybody off guard, and that, you know, I can't even go get her any more haylage, and that, till I can find somebody with a 4x4.
Theatres and museums, including at Ironbridge, were closed today to help keep staff and customers safe. But as the snow turns to slush and melts away, it's hoped that tomorrow things will start to open up and get back to normal. But as that big thaw continues, the impact of the snow is likely to be felt for a couple of days yet. There will, of course, be a lot more water around, meaning localised flooding is a possibility. So just keep an eye on flood alerts and flood warnings wherever you are tonight and tomorrow.
Charlotte, great advice. Thank you very much. Well, it wasn't just the more rural areas blanketed in snow. On the roads across the Midlands, it's been a nightmare getting around since the snow began just as we were beginning our programme yesterday evening.
In Dudley, dozens of cars and a bus were abandoned, and even this lunchtime, another bus had to be dug out of the snow, as Mark Goff reports.
It was hard going in Dudley today. This fleet of buses going nowhere until the one in front was dug out. The snow bomb hit the Black Country hard last night. On the hill to the zoo and the castle, car after car had been abandoned.
We unwisely decided to go for a shop at the Tesco. It wasn't that bad at the time when we left our house. We thought we'd just stock up on supplies before the snowstorm hits, and then we went out, and then as soon as we went out, finished our shop. It took a bit longer than we expected, and it was just snow everywhere. As we got up, we realised that the car just could not make it, so we had to just pull over onto the side and just leave it stranded.
So what time was that? What time did you leave the car dumped?
Around about 8:30.
Wow.
And then we had to walk it all the way back home. So it was
How
about
far?
45-minute walk.
Wow. And 45-minute walk back now?
45-minute walk back now. I was on my lunch break, working from home on my lunch break. I thought, let me just see if I can try and get it out.
At Dudley Mosque, it was a race to clear the snow in time for Friday prayers.
I've never seen anything like that. I think it's quite a long time since we had snow like that much.
How did you get into the mosque today then?
I walked it down.
How far?
About a mile. About a mile, yeah.
How was it?
Hard, really. I mean, it's up to the ankles. You know, you need Wellington to go around.
At the Fellows pub, they were gritting the car park today, optimistic for some passing trade. They were one of just a few places open in Dudley today, and the only pub which stayed open last night.
We had about half a dozen people, a lot of people stranded waiting for parents, youngsters were stuck in the snow, waiting for parents to come and collect them.
People like to walk to the pub because it's nice and warm to have a pint, so hopefully we're quite busy.
We had to pick my parents up first to come here, and their roads, not too bad, but the side roads coming off there are very, very dodgy. I got stuck a couple of times.
And by early afternoon, there was still no sign of a big thaw. Where are you off to now?
We're just walking into the Dudley Town Centre to go do some banking.
Where from? How far have you walked?
From Tipton.
So.
How long is that?
It takes us about 40 minutes. Yeah, so, but it's been a pleasurable walk, I'd like to say. Yeah, a bit slippy.
And finally, after a bit of digging, the buses got on their way. Mark Goff, ITV News, Dudley.
If you look at the state of the roads here, everyone's had to abandon their cars. This was absolutely awful last night.
Keelan Gardner has been up and down the roads in Cannock and Rugeley since 6 this morning.
Are you okay? You all right, yeah? No problem, thank you.
Helping people who are stuck or need help to get to work. I joined Keelan on his rounds, and no sooner did we spot someone in difficulty.
Hiya mate, do you want me to pull ya? Just a touch.
Keelan attaches his rope to the car's towing eye, pulls, and the driver is safe and unstuck, something he's been doing all day.
My main purpose this morning was to get the intensive care NHS worker to New Cross in Wolverhampton, and we went down towards the M6 where you turn right towards Featherstone at the top of Cannock, and it was gridlocked and we had to literally drive up the path and up embankments to get past it all. The common situation is when they're stopping at junctions or traffic lights, or somebody's come to a halt on a hill, they're behind them, they get going and they're just stuck then, they're going nowhere.
Some paths were blocked, and the combination of hilly and ungritted roads means the chances of getting stuck is greater, including me.
Get you out of there, no problem.
Thank you.
Later this road's going to be like an absolute ice rink, so with me going up and down, can make sure people are still getting up and down it as they need to, and obviously there's no injuries or anyone's gone in a hedge, but we'll just carry on doing what we're doing today.
Keelan will be on the lookout all night, single-handedly helping one person at a time to safety.